This video will give you some key information about the Maya that comes from your textbook. This is one of my favorite topics to teach about. Anyway, the first thing I would like you to write in is what I have in the top, at the top, that says when the Maya were around, because your book doesn't do a great job of saying here's exactly when the Maya were around. At least during the Golden Age, this is the time period that we're studying, 250 to 900 AD. In the first section, I want you to add near the heading what I did in green, the equals how they were resourceful, because at the end of the unit you may be asked to explain how the Maya or other groups were resourceful, and this section gives you some good examples in terms of agriculture. There were two farming methods the Maya used. The first one, the way I wrote it, there's kind of three bullets that go together. Alright, actually we'll do it this way. Forest burned down and cleared. Use that for farming. After a while the lands aren't fertile anymore, so you abandon that land for the time being. Find new land to burn down and clear for farming, and then the process is repeated over and over, you just using the land. So that's the first method. The second method is here, described where I have the two. Has to do with raised fields near riverbanks so that they didn't get flooded. Both of these methods sustained the city-states of the Maya civilization and produced a lot of food for a long time to help the civilization to thrive. At any point in the video, if it's going too fast and you need to fill something in, then you should pause the video, write down what you need, and then replay it again. So one thing that was different from the Aztec and Inca with the Maya was they had a lot of city-states. It wasn't one huge empire, and you can see I've starred that fact. And so a city-state was just kind of like its own independent area. Sometimes there were rival city-states, but that's what makes the Maya different from the Aztec and Inca. They had one whole empire for those two groups. And I just mentioned that there was warfare sometimes. They also traded with each other. And I've listed some key city-states in my last bullet on this page. The mentioned in video part refers to a video. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly if we're going to watch it or not, so I wouldn't write that in at this point. This section elaborates on the trade between the city-states, and this brought some city-states a lot of wealth. You can see I have that written in. And then in the second bullet, I've listed some useful goods and some prized, more luxury goods that the Maya traded. Oops. So it's important to realize the Maya were polytheistic. The religion influenced all aspects of their life, and this is true of the Aztec and Inca as well. And anywhere where I have like Aztec or Inca, you might want to write that in, because at the end of the unit you may be doing a Venn diagram, and then that information would come in handy when you're completing a Venn diagram. So the Maya had a lot of pyramids that they built. They were really good at building pyramids, and some of them have been restored and some of them are still standing, maybe not in perfect condition, but there's a lot of Mayan ruins in Mexico, Belize, and other countries, and some have been restored for tourists to go see. Anyway, at the top of them there might be sacrifices. They were sometimes burial spots, some temples were, and then it gives you a fact about palaces, what went on in the palaces. Not surprisingly, that's where rulers ruled. And this might be in a later spot, it probably is, but since the Maya had city-states, they had different rulers for each city-state. So they didn't have one ruler of the whole empire because of the city-states. So also in stone, they had these things called stela, and they were just like tall pillars kind of with hieroglyphics carved into them, and they had certain information, the stela, and that's what I have in my second bullet right here. Images, information about Maya rulers. So another really important part of the Maya civilization, I've already mentioned the hieroglyphics. So those, the evidence or the hieroglyphics that the Maya created show they had a writing system which recorded their history. So that's an important fact about the Maya. And they also, the second bullet tells you what the stela had, information that was carved into those. Stelae, I think, is the plural. And then another really important element of the Maya civilization were some bark paper books. And they recorded information. The Spanish destroyed a lot of them when they came across the Maya eventually, but some of them weren't destroyed, and so those remain. So like I have at the bottom, it's in the green box right now, you may want to write somewhere, like I did, that the recording of historical events shows that the Maya were advanced. Shows they were thinking about recording what they did for the future, and just that they had the sense to record information about their civilization, and that they had a written language. Here's another section about how the Mayas were advanced. So again, I think it's helpful to write that in your notes. So one thing we have is why priests measured time and were good with astronomy, because it was really important to them to time ceremonies correctly so that certain things could happen that they thought the ceremonies would bring. You can see the abbreviation I have for therefore, and I kind of mentioned this, but the priests needed to know math and astronomy, like I said, for the first bullet, so they could hold ceremonies at the right time. Another really important part of the Maya civilization was their calendars. So those are mentioned there. The ritual calendar, the sacred round, the 260-day ritual calendar, helped the Maya plan events like planting corn, getting married, or other events like that. Something that they want to time right so that the gods would show favor for those events. And this just shows how religion was important to them and explained a lot of what they did. And then you have other advances in math, a number system with place value, and zero, understanding zero, which to us seems like a no-brainer, but not all civilizations had zero. Like Roman numerals, there was no zero. So this was something the Maya factored into their numbers. So the last section will talk about the decline of the Maya, and it's a little uncertain why they declined. There's no one theory that historians agree on. Anyway, but the end happened around 900 AD, so you want to make sure that that's in your notes. Not everyone disappeared, but most of the cities had kind of died out by that point. And there were some in farming villages when the Spanish came in the 1500s, but there wasn't a significant Maya civilization in the 1500s when the Spanish came and burned the books that I mentioned on the previous page. So, like I said, there's different theories about why they disappeared. The first one is listed here. Second one, okay, it's important in your notes to have all three parts. A lot of times people write just overpopulation, and that's not the whole story. It was overpopulation, too many people led to too much farming, that led to soil exhaustion, and that did not enable them to have productive agriculture anymore, and so not everyone could be fed, and it just over time was a big problem. The last one, heavy taxes to finance wars and temples, led to revolts. And maybe it was a combination of ones. There's no set opinion about this topic. And lastly, at the bottom, you have some pictures that I took when I was in Chichen Itza, which are Mayan ruins in Mexico. And I went there, I visited that site when I was on my honeymoon in Mexico, and I thought it was awesome. It was very hot. One of my main memories is wanting water and not having enough. and the picture to the right is me at the top of a pyramid that you could climb. And I have more pictures from Chichen Itza that you'll see at some point. Okay, I think that sums it up, the key information about the Maya. If you missed anything, you can go back to that point in the video. But if you're all set, then so am I.